Test 1, 2, 3. Hooray. I think it's working. Hello. It is Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2017. Good morning. It's Dr. Palermo with an instructional message for MELS 605 candidates for week 5. Hey, Hersey and Blanchard, my favorite books. You've had some readings to do. You have some writings and reflections and Blackboard posts to do in Hersey and in Glickman. I'm reading those from last week now, and I want to comment a thing or two. I messed up and had the wrong chapter for the Achieve model, Hersey's theory, which underlies situational leadership. So again, the idea here is that some days as principals, you're managers, some hours as principals, you're leaders. Are you a leader inspiring your staff to great things? And are you the cheerleader at the beginning of the school year, kicking things off with a lot of enthusiasm? Hopefully you're that enthusiastic every day. Well, then you are also a supervisor of teachers. And the teachers, if you're going to have a successful school, have great teachers. That's the bottom line. But can you hire all of your teachers? Or each year as you serve as a principal, you're going to have the opportunity to motivate and to try to help folk get better and become the very best staff that they can. Because again, good teachers are going to mean a great school. So you have some staff members, you always have a couple who for whatever reason don't do what you ask them to do, whether it's to be on bus duty, to be on time to school, or to teach the curriculum. So how do we supervise individuals in order to maximize their effectiveness? Effectiveness is one of the things that's defined in the next chapter of Hersey. I'm getting all my chapters mixed up, but it's all boiling together to in Hersey, at least, to use that Achieve model to boil down to two things. It always boils down, in my mind, to ability. Do the employees that you're asking to do something, teach the curriculum, teach 6th grade math, collaborate with others, do they have the skills, the ability to do what it is that you're asking them to do, or do they have the willingness? Ability, willingness. Will they do what you ask them to do? And your response as a supervisor needs to match their need. Make sense, maybe? In classrooms, teachers have to understand their students and know how to meet their needs and to differentiate. As supervisors and principals and managers, you need to differentiate your management style to the situation, to the individual. Some of you responded in a dialogue post about teaming and last week. Well, Hersey doesn't address teaming so much. There's a little chapter later about it. Most of the hot tips from both Hersey and Glickman here about on the supervisory continuum, it's about one-on-one. It's about you as a manager leading and working with teachers or employees, instructional employees in particular. And the leader behavior that you choose, whether it's to be supportive or to be directive or achievement oriented or participatory, participative leadership, should depend on the situation and the individual, what it is that they need. So a teacher who needs an action plan, that directive control, is not the same teacher that you bring in and things are going pretty well, but they could get better if they were doing more questioning, if they were using tickets out as a formative assessment. You can talk with folks sometimes about what do you choose, what's the non-directive behavior that I would like to see, and how can we together decide how to make some changes in your classroom. Or at the far end of the continuum, and again, this is a continuum. Go back and check out Glickman's continuum of supervisory behaviors if you missed that from chapter 6. Last week, I asked you about the directive informational and the directive control. Make sure that you understand at the far end of that spectrum, the directive control is an action plan. And oh, by the way, if you're a principal and you have one or two staff members in your building on an action plan, that's not a bad thing. And the word is going to get around. And how quickly do you move some folk to an action plan? Some of you asked this last week too. Great questions in your dialogue posts. I have a couple of stock phrases that I use here. 3 strikes basically is one of them. I always wanted to make sure that folks did have the ability. I didn't want to assume that the first time I saw something bad going into their classroom or that there was a bad observation that they had to get gone. You work with folks. You work with them to get better, and then you work with them to get gone if you have to. But I generally had a 3-strike rule, and I wanted to see clearly that I was not mistaken, that I could get others involved, and that something really needed to happen before putting them on that action plan. And then if it's something managerial like showing up to work on time, 3 strikes again was my rule. First time, a warning, a verbal warning. Second time, a written warning. Put something in your file that says you've been late to school 5 times. But again, I would do at least 2 warnings prior to something extreme like a face-to-face conference or putting somebody on an action plan. So work with people to get better, and then work with them to get gone. And the word's going to get out. If you do nothing as a principal, the word's going to get out. If you hold people accountable and make them do what they're supposed to be doing to make them effective, that word is going to get out as well. And that's the way you build the culture in your school, by working one-on-one with folks. I'm rambling. Management and supervision. Management and leadership. Different behaviors. Now, as we move down the supervisory continuum in Glickman, I'm going to ask you to respond to some role plays. The role plays are designed to make sure that you understand the different stages along the continuum and how you as the supervisor would respond to folks. So what are you going to say to Marcus and respond? Now, shifting gears, that's Hersey and Glickman, the reading and the application. I have to say that these 2 little books have been more valuable to me as taking theory and putting it into application as a principal and as a manager of employees. Why don't employees do what you want them to do sometimes? If you're scratching your head and you're wondering, go to Hersey, look at the behavior, observe and try to define the behavior. And I bet these 2 books can together give you some suggestions about how to respond. Most of you, artifact work, peer reviews, thank you. Most of you are well ahead of the curve on these tasks. Many of you have already submitted things in the task stream. If you haven't already submitted your CAP E to task stream, please do that. We have one more evidence that I'm going to ask next week. I think in week 6, I ask you to load your SIAP F into Blackboard for others to look at and to comment. Make sure that you do 2 of those peer reviews. I would like to see you complete a Zoom and load that into Blackboard as well. But big picture, make sure you're getting your artifacts done. Please write to me if you have any questions or concerns about those. But I see that the majority of you have already loaded your CAPE E in Blackboard and completed that task. Switch it over to TaskStream if you've not already done that. Load your SIAPs next week, and we're going to be finishing up this whole process. What about your competency portfolio, the other aspect, that other folio in TaskStream that you're supposed to be loading competencies? Well, related to this week's stuff, what do you know about action plans? Research action plans just a little bit. That's that directive controlled behavior, directive, not the directive informational, but the directive controlled behavior. That's what I would describe as an action plan. Is there an action plan template at your school? Can you talk with a principal or an AP about how to document and create an action plan? Can you load a sample action plan and something about your dialogue with the principal about how to use directive control when necessary with an employee? Well, that's something that I might suggest that you load in a management tab or communication tab in the competency folio. If you have questions about other items to load there, I hope through the coursework, through the theory that you're learning, that there are other applications through the dialogue posts or through your reading that we can load into these competency folios. That's all for this week. That's plenty. Go Heels. Thanks.